Hello and welcome to Zorin OS, the Linux alternative to Windows and macOS. My name is Dan Mill from Dan Mill Training, and I'm genuinely excited to have you here. Maybe you're curious about Linux. Maybe you're tired of the usual Windows or macOS experience, or you just have an old computer lying around and you're wondering if there's a way to bring it back to life. Whatever brought you here, you're in exactly the right place. This course is designed to help you get up and running with Zorin OS, even if you've never used Linux before. And don't worry, you don't need to be some kind of tech wizard to follow along. I've built this course to be as beginner friendly as possible, with simple explanations, plenty of examples, and step-by-step guidance. Throughout the course, we're going to walk through everything you need to know, starting with what Zorin OS actually is and why it's becoming such a popular choice for people who want a smooth, modern, and user-friendly experience. Then I'll show you how we're going to download it, we're going to show how to install it, and we're going to then move through the kind of system by system of how this operating system works. If the idea of installing a new operating system sounds scary, trust me, this course is for you. You won't be doing anything alone. Once we've got Zorin OS installed, we're going to take some time to explore the system together. I'll show you around the desktop, introduce you to the apps that come pre-installed, and we'll tweak the look and feel of your system so it can match your style. Whether you prefer something that you're more familiar with, like the Windows 10 or Windows 11 type systems, or something sleek like the macOS Appearance, or even you can customize it to a completely fresh setup that's uniquely yours. We're going to be diving into installing some new software, look at how to keep your system updated, and we'll look at solving some common beginner problems, and even touch on some more advanced topics like using the terminal. But don't worry, I'll keep it friendly and approachable the whole way through. Now, to follow along with the course, all you really need is a bit of curiosity. Ideally, it would be great if you can install Zorin OS either in a test environment, a virtualized environment, or on an old machine that you don't mind wiping. But you don't have to. You can just watch the videos, get more familiar with it that way, and then take it at your own pace. The structure of the course is simple. We're building knowledge step by step. You don't need to have any Linux background, and you don't even need to have much technical experience. By the end of my course, this goal is for you to feel confident and comfortable using Zorin OS for whatever you need, whether that's browsing the internet, working on documents, managing files, or even gaming. I hope by the end of this course you'll also be excited about the possibilities that Linux opens up. Zorin OS is just the beginning of a whole new world where you have more control over your technology and your experience. So once again, welcome. I'm thrilled that you're here and I can't wait to get started. Let's go ahead and jump in. So what exactly is Zorin OS? Well, Zorin OS, which stands for Operating System, is a Linux-based operating system that's designed to be simple, fast, and familiar, especially for people who are used to Windows or macOS. Think of it as a fresh, modern alternative to the big-name operating systems you're probably used to. It's built on top of Ubuntu, which is one of the most popular and stable versions of Linux out there. That means that Zorin OS inherits a strong foundation of security, reliability, and community support. But what makes Zorin OS really stand out is how it looks and feels. From the moment you start using it, you're going to notice that the interface is designed to be very intuitive. In fact, you can customize it to look like almost exactly like Windows or macOS, or even something completely unique to you. If you go ahead and check out the Zorin OS subreddit, you'll see lots of people posting their take on what a unique operating system looks like to them. This makes the learning curve much smoother, especially if you're switching over for the first time. Now, Zorin OS comes with a full suite of apps built in. It has all the essentials like a built-in web browser, Office software for when you need to make spreadsheets, documents, PowerPoint presentations, that sort of thing. It comes with music and video players, really everything you need to be productive and entertained right out of the box. Plus, it's incredibly easy to install new apps using the Zorin software store, which we'll see later in the course. Another huge advantage is the performance. It's optimized to run faster and lighter than many other operating systems, which means it's a fantastic way to bring an old or slow computer back to life. It's also a lot more private. Unlike some modern operating systems that track all your activity, Zorin OS respects your privacy and gives you control over your data. So in short, it's about giving you a beautiful, powerful, and flexible computing experience. Now, who is it for? Right, well, if you go ahead and take a look at download Zorin OS, you'll see there's a couple of different versions we'll talk about a bit later on. But really, the Pro version is for more those business and enterprise users, and maybe even advanced home users. You have the Core, which is for basic use, and you have the Education, which is for schools and students. So think, anywhere from primary school all the way up until university. There is also a light edition that I'll touch on a little bit later on, which is available here. So really, Zorin OS is for everyone. Hopefully this gives you a really strong foundational knowledge on what this operating system is and why it's becoming so popular. Throughout the next couple of lessons, what we're going to start looking at is more deep diving into what the specific use cases of Zorin OS is, and how you can choose the version that's right for you. Thank you very much for sticking with me in this lecture. I'll see you in the next one. So who exactly is this course for? Well, if you've ever felt frustrated with your current operating system, whether it's Windows or macOS, or you're just not wanting to pay the exorbitant fees to be able to run these operating systems, and you're wondering if there's something different out there, then this course is definitely for you. Zorin OS offers a smoother, faster, and more customizable experience, especially if you're looking for a fresh alternative that's still easy to use. This course is also for someone who's always been curious about Linux, but doesn't quite know where to start. Zorin OS is your perfect entry point. Maybe you've heard about Linux before, but thought it was too complicated or too different. Well, I'm here to tell you that Zorin OS is actually built with you in mind, especially if you're coming from a Windows or macOS background. So if you're new to Linux, you're in the right place. This course is also great if you're looking to breathe new life into an old computer or laptop. Maybe you've got a laptop or desktop that's feeling slow and you're not ready to toss it out just yet. Well, Zorin OS can make that old machine feel brand new, and I'm going to show you how. Finally, if you're a student, professional, or someone who spends a lot of time on their computer and wants a stable, secure, and efficient operating system, then you're going to love how Zorin OS can fit into your daily routine. If you're a system administrator wanting to understand Zorin OS more, and perhaps you're looking at migrating some of your machines from Windows to Zorin OS, there is an absolutely fantastic help article available on their website talking about the 5 steps of moving from Windows to Zorin OS. And it starts with trying it on one computer, so I'll show you how to spin it up in a virtual environment for you to test out. You're then going to want to identify the applications that you or your staff or your students are going to use. You're going to deploy the alternatives to these computers. Then you're going to roll out Zorin OS and finally start deploying and managing computers. That's it for this lecture. I'll go ahead and see you in the next one. If you go ahead and head on over to Zorin.com, you'll find in the top right hand corner there's a big help button. So if there's anything that I don't cover in the course that you're curious about, I highly recommend you jump onto the website and go to the help section, where they have tons of great free articles for you to read through and get more to grips with how the Zorin OS works. There's everything on here, like how to add a new keyboard layout, how to change your language, how to join a machine to Active Directory, and much, much more. They've even got help with if you're wanting to upgrade from Zorin OS Core to Zorin OS Pro. They've got a huge amount of details here too. You can also request support as well as visit the Zorin forum, where there's lots of people and lots of the community able to assist you with particularly niche issues. If there's a problem you're having with a particular piece of hardware, or you're not quite getting Zorin to run right on your version of laptop or desktop at home, then you can always jump on the forum, and there are absolutely huge amounts of people willing to help you out. So just thought I'd let you know that, because again, there might be something that I miss or that you don't quite understand the first time around. So jump onto the help.zorin.com and they'll be able to assist you. So why should you choose Zorin OS over Windows or Mac OS operating systems? Well, let's start with familiarity. If you're coming from Windows or Mac OS, switching to something new can feel overwhelming. Zorin is designed specifically to make sure that transition is as smooth as possible. Right out of the box, it's going to offer you layouts that look and feel just like Windows or macOS, depending on what you're more familiar with. You don't have to relearn everything, your desktop, your start menu, your apps, everything is going to feel right at home. Now, if you've ever had an older computer that started feeling sluggish with new versions of Windows or macOS, or maybe it's not even compatible with all the latest additions required for things like Windows 11, this is why you're going to love Zorin OS, because it can breathe life into older machines. It's lightweight, fast, and doesn't demand a ton of resources. Even computers that are 8, 10, 12 plus years old can feel surprisingly quick again, especially when you're using more of the more basic functions such as, web browsing, working on documents, and not some of that really intensive stuff like graphic design or gaming and things like that. Now, what about cost? Windows and macOS both come with hidden costs, whether it's paying for licenses, buying new hardware every few years, or dealing with expensive software. Zorin OS is free to use with the Core and Lite editions, and even the paid Pro edition is a one-time affordable purchase, so there's no subscriptions and no surprises. If we take a look at the Zorin OS price right now, it's $47.99 USD, and that's including the sales tax, and that's as of April 2025. Compare this price to this. Windows 11 is costing people over $200 to get a license for right now, and that's just the home edition as well. So this really can't be used well in businesses and enterprise because you're not going to be able to join it to a domain, you can't join it to Entra ID. So you compare that to the $47 cost of Zorin OS Pro, but remember you don't have to go with the Pro edition, right? Core and Lite editions are absolutely free. Another really big issue, especially in the modern world, is privacy. With Windows especially, there's a lot of built-in tracking and data collection, especially these days if you're using the latest Windows 10 or Windows 11. You have to sign up to a whole bunch of different tracking of your usage and services rights. And this can make people feel a little bit uncomfortable. macOS does a little better, but it's still tied into Apple's ecosystem. Zorin OS, on the other hand, respects your privacy by default. No advertising IDs, no unnecessary tracking, your data stays yours. And finally, the last point I want to touch on is freedom and control. With Zorin and Linux in general, you have more control over how your system works. You can customize it heavily, install software from a huge library of free applications, and tweak things exactly the way you like. You're not locked into one way of doing things. So whether you're looking for better performance, lower costs, more privacy, or just a fresh start with something new, Zorin OS offers a powerful alternative without the frustration that sometimes comes with Windows or Mac. Now, I spoke a little bit earlier on about if you are moving from a Windows environment, there is a really great help article available on their help website that talks about switching your organization from Windows in 5 steps. You'll also see there that if you go on the homepage, there's some testimonials, for example, the city of Vicenza, hopefully I haven't messed up that name, in Italy, were looking at moving towards Zorin OS, and they successfully were able to migrate across and revive some of their older machines. So in this course, we're really going to demonstrate how easy and rewarding it can be to make the switch. When you first visit the Zorin OS website and start looking at your download options, you'll quickly notice there isn't just one version, there's actually several. And each version is tailored for slightly different needs, different types of users, and even different types of computers. Understanding these versions is important because it helps you pick the one that's going to give you the best experience right from the start. Not to say that you can't go and try them all and then pick which one's best for you, but if you want to save on a bit of time, watch this video and I'll help you. So let's start with the one that most people are going to be using, and that's the Zorin OS Core. And at the time of this recording, the latest version is 17.3. Core is the default version. It's designed for everyday users who want a full desktop experience right out of the box. It comes with a clean, modern desktop environment that feels very familiar to Windows users and is packed with essential applications like a web browser, a complete office suite, music player, video player, photo manager, software store, and much, much more. The Core Edition is built on the GNOME desktop environment, but Zorin has customized it heavily to make it more user-friendly and more responsive. You can choose different desktop layouts depending on what you're used to, such as a Windows-style layout or a macOS-style layout, and switching between them is super easy, as you'll see later in the course. Performance-wise, Core is optimized for relatively modern hardware. You don't need a brand new computer by any means, but something built within, I'd say, the last 8 to 10 years is going to run Core very comfortably. The best part of all of this is this word right here. It's absolutely free to download and to use. And for a majority of this course, Core is what we're going to be running in our virtualized environment, so I can give you that demonstration. So if you're new to Linux and want a fresh, modern, no-hassle desktop experience, Zorin OS Core is the perfect place to start. Now, what if you have a really old or low-powered desktop or laptop? That's where Zorin OS Lite, which you can find down here, is your option. So as you can see, they are currently continuing support and maintenance until June 2029. So just kind of keep that in mind. I highly suggest if you are looking at Zorin OS Lite, you go ahead and jump onto their website and have a read of this, because there is some important information in here as to what you can do with Zorin OS Lite and the support and maintenance that comes with it. Lite is specifically built for machines that are struggling with newer versions of Windows or macOS. We're talking about computers with maybe only 2 to 4 gigs of RAM, older processors, and even older hardware drives. If we take a look at the system requirements here, you can see that the Lite version is able to run with, I think, about 1.5 gigs of RAM. So these are machines we're really talking about 15 years old or maybe even more. The big difference with Lite is that it uses the XFCE desktop environment instead of GNOME. This is famous for being lightweight and incredibly fast while still offering a nice user-friendly experience. It's not as flashy with visual effects as Core, but honestly that's really the whole point of why you'd be downloading Lite in the first place. It strips away anything unnecessary so your computer can focus on running smoothly without slowing down. Just like Core, it comes with a lot of essential applications that you need day to day, and it even has a lot of the same look and feel, thanks to Zorin's team's customizing of the XFCE desktop. So if you have an older laptop, netbook, or desktop gathering dust in a closet somewhere, Zorin OS Lite could give it a brand new lease on life. And again, just to remember, this version is completely free. Now let's head on back up and talk about the Pro Edition. So this is really for users who want to go beyond the basics. Maybe you want a more premium desktop layout, you want some extra software that's already built in, and a little bit more polish. That's where the Pro version really pays off. Now, Pro is a paid edition of Zorin OS, and you can see the price listed here as of April 2025. That is subject to change. This cost helps support the development of the project, and in return, you're going to get a bundle of additional features and services, and you can see some of them listed here. First of all, you get access to professional grade desktop layouts, and you also get a collection of pre-installed premium apps that cover a wide range of tasks, things like video editing to graphic design to advanced productivity tools. So instead of spending time searching for and installing a bunch of extra software, a lot of what you might want is already there. And if you're someone who wants that little bit extra style, like beautiful animations, enhanced visuals, extra wallpapers, and slightly more polished feel, Pro can deliver that too. Importantly, it's the underlying system is the same as Core, so if you don't need the extra layout and apps, Core is still a fantastic option. But if you want to support Zorin's development and enjoy an even more premium experience, Zorin OS Pro is a great option. So remember that it is a one-time payment. There's no subscriptions, there's no recurring fees. You pay that fee, you get one copy of Zorin OS Pro. And you can see here they say it's bundled with alternatives to over $5,000 of professional software. So if you want kind of your bang for your buck, that's the way to go. The other thing as well is you can get technical support from Zorin themselves when running this version. And if you want to find out more, you can click on the Learn More option, and it's going to give you a whole lot more detail about what you get in Pro as opposed to Core or Lite versions. Hopefully I've covered enough for you, but if you want to get kind of more deep down into it, feel free to go and check that out. Finally, the last edition I want to talk about is the Zorin OS Education. This is an actual edition in itself. So this is separate to Core, separate to Lite, separate to Pro. There is a version called Zorin OS Education. As the name suggests, this version is geared towards students, teachers, and schools. It's designed to turn any computer into a powerful learning tool. Zorin OS Education comes preloaded with a massive collection of educational software, covering topics like mathematics, science, coding and computer science, geography, language learning, typing skills, music creation, and much more. There are apps and learning resources for all age groups, from young children who may be in primary school all the way up to university level students. The idea here is simple: make it easy for schools or parents to set up a powerful educational environment without having to hunt around for individual programs or pay extra licensing fees. Like Core and Lite, Zorin OS Education is completely free, and it's an amazing resource, especially for underfunded schools, homeschooling environments, or for anyone who wants to learn using open source tools. So if you want to learn more about that and you're on the website, click on the Learn More button under Zorin OS Education. It's going to give you some details around the educational apps, how it's going to teach kids to code and engineer. Again, some details around like making old PCs. So maybe you've got, you're going through a life cycle right now, and you've got a bunch of machines that were meant to be either e-wasted or disposed of, but you don't want to get rid of them just yet, and you need those additional resources. That's where Zorin OS can really come into play. So a quick summary of the different versions. Core is the standard version for most users, modern, friendly, and free. Lite is the lightweight version for older computers. It's fast, efficient, and free. Pro is the premium edition with extra layouts, professional apps, and polish. It's paid but affordable. And Education is the school-focused version, packed with learning apps and tools, and it's completely free. So no matter which version you choose, Zorin OS is all about giving you the tools you need to be productive, creative, and free, without being locked into expensive ecosystems or weighed down by slow performance. I really hope that you're looking forward to the lab section that's coming up, where we really get to showcase these different products and how they work, and you'll really get to see and understand what I'm talking about when I talk about the performance, when I talk about the layout and the software involved. Thank you very much for sticking with me. I'll see you in the next lesson. Before installing Zorin OS, it's important to make sure your computer meets the system requirements, the minimum hardware specifications required to install Zorin OS on a computer. Doesn't matter if it's a laptop or a desktop, they are the exact same. So what you'll need at a minimum, you're going to need at least 1 gigahertz dual core 64-bit processor. Now, it doesn't matter if it's Intel made or AMD made. It's only important that it is a 64-bit processor, okay, with at least 1 gigahertz of processing power or more. Memory-wise, or RAM, we need 1.5 gigabytes at a minimum, so that's at least, okay. Storage, for core, you're going to need 15 gigabytes. All right, so a hard drive that's 15 gigabytes or more. A lot of people do choose to dual boot between Windows and Zorin OS. You just need to make sure your partition has more than that available. For the education version, it's 32 gigabytes or 40 gigabytes for Pro. And display-wise, you just need something capable of 1024 by 768 resolution or higher. Now, thanks to optimizations in the latest versions of Zorin OS, even the standard edition, so Core, Pro, and Education, can run smoothly on computers as old as 15 years, with surprisingly good, really good performance. Compare this to, say, Windows or macOS. I think the modern operating systems, you're going to need something like 4 gigs of RAM just to be able to install it. It's not going to work very well. It's going to be very slow, very sluggish. You're probably not going to be able to have more than one application or two applications open at a time, and you definitely won't be able to do anything advanced. Storage, you need around 64 gigabytes of storage for modern operating systems, and not many support displays at 1024 by 768. A couple of other compatibility talks that we want to discuss about specific devices. Now, bear in mind, there is a whole bunch of information in here, but I've just kind of summarized it for you. Most Intel Macs do work out of the box. Macs with a T2 security chip may need some extra setup steps, and Macs with App-on Silicon can't run OS natively. So if you've got the M1 or M2 chips, you might have issues, and you might have to run it inside of a virtual machine. For Surface devices with Intel or AMD processors, these are generally compatible, but may need a few tweaks after installation. Surface devices with ARM processors are not supported. Framework laptops are compatible, although you might need to do a little extra setup for the best experience. Some Chromebooks can install Zorin OS if you enable developer mode and unlock the bootloader. However, not all models are supported, and there is no version of Zorin OS for the Raspberry Pi devices at this time. Those are very, very specific use cases, but just keep in mind that most, if not, a majority of devices are going to be compatible with the system requirements that I've just read out there. So with that out the way, let's go ahead and take a look at the next lesson about how we actually download Zorin OS. Alright, now that you know what Zorin OS is and whether your computer can run it, let's get started with downloading it. First up, you're going to need to head over to the official website zorin.com. Once you're there, and you're on the main page, in the top right hand corner you'll see there is a download button. There's also a nice big download button in the middle of the page. They both go to the same thing, so we're going to click on that. You'll notice there are a few different versions to choose from, which we covered in an earlier lesson. Of course, in this course we're going to mainly focus on the Core Edition. So we're going to scroll on down until we see Zorin OS Core. Now the version might be a little bit further on if you're watching this in the future, but I'd probably say that the website's sticking the same. If things have majorly changed, just let me know and I'll always upload a new video. So if you're just getting started and want a free option, I really do recommend at least starting with the Zorin OS Core. It's the standard edition and perfect for everyday use. If you run Zorin OS Core and it's still running a little bit sluggish, maybe your machine is really, really old, then you can always scroll down and check out the light version. But I'm pretty sure in saying that most people here should be able to run the Zorin OS Core. If you're working in an educational institute, you can always check out the Zorin OS Educational. Otherwise, if you're looking to pay and get some additional features, the Zorin OS Pro. But no matter what version, you're just going to click on the download button. Now it's going to ask you to subscribe to the newsletter. You're absolutely welcome to do this. It's optional. I'm sure they send out a huge amount of great entertaining content, how to use it, news about Zorin OS, all that sort of thing. So, I could recommend it, but it's optional. It's entirely optional. If you don't want to, just click skip to download. So at this point, it's going to start downloading the file in your browser. Zorin OS Core at this point in time is around 2 to 3 gigabytes in size. Now it's going to try and download it from your closest region. If you want to download it from a different region, so maybe you're using a VPN or something like that, you can click on download from a different server and you can see all the different servers, all the different CDNs and mirrors that you can use for faster download. But at this point, we're just going to wait for it to download. It shouldn't take very long, only being 3 gigabytes. Everyone's internet speed is different though. It might take you a little bit longer. So if it is, always feel free to pause the course right now, come back to it later on. That's pretty much it for this lesson though. I just wanted to cover off how to actually download it. I'll see you in the next one. Whilst we're waiting for our file to download, I want to talk a little bit about Zorin Grid. Now, if you're using Zorin OS just at home for yourself, you probably won't need Zorin Grid. But if you're thinking about managing multiple computers, maybe in a business, school, or even non-profit environment, Zorin Grid can make life a lot easier. So what is it? In short, Zorin Grid is a centralized management platform. It lets you monitor, control, and maintain a fleet of computers running Zorin OS, all from one easy-to-use web dashboard. Instead of walking around and configuring each computer individually, with Zorin Grid you can install or remove apps remotely, apply security updates automatically, set system policies across all devices, monitor your computer status and performance, and even lock down or wipe devices if needed for security reasons. It's designed to save time, increase security, and make IT management simple, especially when you have dozens, hundreds, or even thousands of machines to take care of. So it's really ideal for the schools, businesses, non-profits, or any organization managing a lot of computers. So once you subscribe to Zorin Grid, you install a small management agent onto each device. After that, all those devices show up in your online dashboard where you can push updates, enforce settings, and manage users remotely all through the web browser. Now, just to note, this is not yet available. As you can see, Zorin Grid is coming soon. So when it does become available, all of those are going to be available for you. So keep an eye on that, keep monitoring and managing it, and then when it's available, you can go ahead and download and try it out. So like I mentioned, it's going to allow you to install and remove apps, set software update and security policy patches, monitor, set desktop settings, keep track of software and hardware inventory, and enforce security policies, and much, much more. So again, like I mentioned, this is probably where maybe you would want to sign up to their newsletter to keep an eye on this. When it becomes available, you can always sign up here and be the first to know when it is being released to the general public. So I just wanted to create a small little video to kind of explain what that is in case you saw it and was wondering what that tab was. Now that we've downloaded Zorin OS, it's time to set up our virtual machine. This is an extremely safe way of testing operating systems because you're essentially booting them inside a virtualized environment. You're not risking overriding any data if you do it correctly, and it's just a really safe and easy way. So in this lesson, I'll be showing you how to create a Zorin OS core virtual machine using VMware Workstation, which is a really popular virtualization tool. It is free, so you can go out and download it, but don't worry if you prefer to use a different program like VirtualBox, Proxmox, or even another virtualized platform, you absolutely can. The steps you'll follow will be very similar, but depending on the software you choose, there may be slight differences in how things look or what buttons you need to click. So even if you're not using VMware exactly, you can definitely still follow along, just adapt the steps to your software as needed. If you don't have any virtualization platform and that's a little bit above your technical capability, then you're just welcome to continue watching the course and getting a look and feel of Zorin OS that way. But by the end of this section, we're going to show you how to set up a working virtual machine. So I'm going to click on create a new virtual machine here. I'm going to follow the new virtual machine wizard. Under new virtual machine wizard, I'm just going to select other, that's fine. And then I'm going to need to provide a name. So I'm just going to give the name of Zorin OS and then choose the location on my PC. I'll click next. So it's talking about creating the virtual hard disk. Now I'm going to give it 40 gigabytes of space and I'm going to be storing the virtual disk as a single file. You can go ahead and put any size you want as long as it's more than the minimum recommended specs, which we spoke about earlier. That's absolutely fine. We'll go next, and then I'm going to click customize hardware. I'm going to be giving this virtual machine 4 gigabytes of memory just so it runs smoothly. I'm going to be assigning 4 virtual processors. And for my machine, I'm going to be virtualizing AMD. This is a bit of an advanced setting, so don't worry if you don't know what this is. Under network adapter, I'm going to bridge it, so it's going to be seen as an entirely different machine. And then under the CD DVD, I'm going to choose the ISO image that I downloaded from their website. We now have the virtual ISO in there. We've got all our settings correct, so I'm now going to hit close and finish. And at this point, we will have this virtual machine ready to go. So I'm going to power this on, and then I'll see you in the next video where we go through the step-by-step installation instructions. Alright, now that we've set up our virtual machine, it's time for the fun part, and that's installing the Zorin OS core. In this section, I'm going to walk you through the installation process step by step. We'll cover everything that you need to do from booting the ISO file to choosing the installation settings to getting your system ready for use. I'll be taking it slow, showing you exactly what to click, what to select, and what each option means. So if this is your first time installing a Linux operating system or you've done it a few times before, you're going to feel completely confident by the end of this guide. Now, just a reminder, this installation is happening inside a virtual machine, so it's a lot safer than installing it on a physical device. We don't have to worry about potentially overwriting data as long as we've got the space on the hard disk we've selected. If you're using a different virtualization program to me, so if you're using like VirtualBox or Proxmox, your screens might look slightly different, but the core steps are essentially going to be the same. With all that out of the way, it's time for us to click power on this virtual machine and allow us to go. So the first option is we're going to get the options to either try or install Zorin OS or do it with safe graphics or modern NVIDIA driver. Because we're in a virtual machine and we don't have to worry about the graphics card, we're just going to hit this option here. But if you did have some potentially custom hardware, you may have to pick one of these options. So we're going to hit enter on try or install Zorin OS. If I didn't hit enter, if I didn't click anything on my keyboard, after about 10 seconds, it picks this option automatically. So now that we've done that, let's go ahead and wait for Zorin OS to get all the files loaded. You can see there it's doing the file checks in progress. So it's checking the actual files needed for installation. So we just got to be a little bit patient as it checks it all and ensures we are ready to go. And not too long there, it's pretty quick. There we go, and check finish, no errors found, which is what we like to see. Alright, now let's patiently wait for the installation media to start booting up Zorin OS, and we'll go from there. Now, as you can see, it's a graphical interface for installation, which is really handy. You know, you're not having to do like some operating systems where it's all command line based. This is a very graphical feel, so it's extremely beginner friendly, which is exactly why we like Zorin OS. Right now it's just kind of preloading everything in the background, so we can just pretty much sit back and relax and wait for it to get everything ready for us. There are a few steps we need to do manually throughout the installation, but we'll see how we go. Alright, so we have gotten to the section now where we can begin the install. So one of the first things you'll notice is down the side here, you can change the language. So for example, you could get this in French, English, a whole bunch of other languages. And we have two options. Try Zorin OS. You can try Zorin OS without making any changes to your computer. So this is what we call a live CD or a live ISO. Essentially what it's going to do is it's going to boot the operating system from the ISO file and not have to overwrite any data. So some people choose to do this on physical machines if they just want to give it a try, see how it works, check some compatibility. But the more common use case is install Zorin OS. So this is going to install it either alongside or over the top of your current operating system. Now this is really important. If you are doing this on a physical device, as I had in an article earlier on, you run the risk of overwriting data. Okay, this is a rather advanced subject, so it's always best to check the Zorin OS help guide on how you actually install it on a physical device, because you could end up overwriting all your data, right? If you don't know what you're doing, you don't know how dual booting works, and you don't know how to partition off hard drives, you could install Zorin OS and it could completely wipe any existing operating systems on that hard disk. So this is why we're opting to do our test inside a virtual machine, because the virtual hard disk we've assigned is virtual and there's not a risk of that. So to get to this point, you know, on a physical device, you would have had to have created a bootable USB drive or a bootable disk and got to this point. But in our virtualized environment, we can just click install Zorin OS. Next, we need to choose our keyboard layout. So I am Australian, if you couldn't tell by my accent. So we're just going to click English Australian. It does often detect it automatically, but if it hasn't, then you can just scroll up and down on this list and pick it. I'm going to hit continue. We now have options to install updates and other software as it's installing. So download updates while installing Zorin OS, install third-party software for graphics and Wi-Fi hardware and additional media formats, they're both selected by default, and I typically recommend you leave those turned on. If you were, for some reason, if there was any reason you didn't want these, you could untick them, but I can't really think of any off the top of my head. The last one is Zorin OS developers have a census for machines, so you can opt out of it by saying don't participate in the census. That's exactly what we're going to do. So I'm going to not participate. It's really up to you if you want to do it. Like it says, it is anonymous, but for the sake of this course, I'm just going to tick that option and click continue. It's now going to start preparing all of the files, all of the drivers and everything that it needs to complete this section here. So we'll let it just wait and think as it goes through. It's opened up a little bit bigger on the screen. So this is what I was talking about before, all right? It's detected that your computer currently has no detected operating systems because we're installing it in a VM. If you was doing this on a physical machine, it has a warning here that it will delete all your programs, documents, photos, music, and any other files in the operating system. So if you are installing this on a physical, be careful. Read the Zorin documentation, go to their website, read it, make sure you understand. Even if you're trying to do dual booting and it's not something you're familiar with, really understand this process before hitting install now, because you risk data loss. So you've been warned. With that, because we're just in a test environment, I'm going to click install now. So what is it going to do? If you continue, the changes listed below will be written to the disks. All right, so the partition table, it's going to install everything just on this one disk. That's absolutely perfect. So I'll click continue for my use case. Now we just have to wait for it to proceed on to the next option. So it's going to ask, where are you? And it's sort of like map functionality, so you can pick the time zone that you're in. So I am going to pick my time zone and hit continue. Now it's going to ask us about our name and the computer name we want to pick, the username. So if this is a home machine, you're welcome to put your name in here. If it's a business one, you may have an assigned name, like this could be workstation 001. My name is, let's say for example, IT admin. And the password there. So let's just pick something easy that we're not going to forget. See, it's given it a rating of fair. Typically for security practices, you might want to have this be a strong password. You can opt to log in automatically, or you can require the password to log in every time. That's a personal preference. And I'll talk a little bit about this use Active Directory a bit later on. This is if you want to tie your machines into AD business environments or use LDAP. So we'll click continue. And this is the part now. If we drop down this little menu, you can see what it's doing. Now this part definitely takes the longest. We're essentially going to have to wait for the Zorin OS 17 to install. So what I'll do is I'll leave this running and I'll play a little bit of background music. But you're absolutely welcome to skip forward. If you're installing it with me, you might want to just kind of do it at your own pace. But if you want to see the full installation progress, I'll let that happen, and then what we'll do is we'll catch up once this has completed. Okay, at this point the installation has completed and we need to restart in order to use the operating system we've just installed. So I'm going to go ahead and click restart now, then I'll see you in the next lecture where we'll start looking at building our Zorin OS system and learning how to use it. I'll see you there. Now that you've got Zorin OS installed, it's time to get everything set up so you can start using it effectively. The first step is, once we've completed installation, logging in for the first time. So this is the logon screen right here. You can see we've got the time and date up the top here. We have some settings that we can change on the main screen, some details about our network, the sound, we have power options as well. But if we click on the user, we can see here it's asking us for the password that we configured. So we'll type in our password, hit enter, and we'll allow it to log us in for the first time. And there you go. Welcome to the Zorin OS operating system. Now it plays some nice music for you when you first start, and what you can do is you can start a tour. So it's going to give you a little bit of information. So it's going to talk about opening the menus, choosing the desktop look, speeding up your virtual machine, connecting some online accounts, linking your phone, and learning about different software, all of which we're going to be talking about throughout the course. So let's just go ahead and close this down. But this is really your first look at what the Zorin operating system looks like. In the upcoming lessons, we're going to start talking about some settings that you might want to configure. Then we'll look at navigating the desktop environment, looking at applications, talking about system maintenance and troubleshooting, and much, much more. But for now though, I'm going to go ahead and sign this one off. I'll see you in the next lecture. In this part of the course, we're going to explore how Zorin OS handles network connections, both wired and wireless, and how you can manage these settings confidently whether you're at home, in the office, or on the move. One of the great things about Zorin OS is that it offers a simple and familiar networking experience, especially if you're coming from Windows or macOS. The graphical interface is clean and intuitive, but for those of you who like to get under the hood, you'll also have access to powerful networking tools. So by default, this is the layout. If we navigate down to the bottom right hand corner, we can see this little Ethernet looking jack right here. If you click on that and then open up the wired connection, now if you had a wireless card, it would also show here, but we just have wired, so we're going to click into that. Within here, you can configure a whole bunch of things. So if you want to manually configure your wired connection, you can simply hit on the network cog right here, and you can go through and do things like set a static IP address, you can set your default route, DNS servers, things like that. If you have a DHCP in your environment, so whether that be a DHCP server or some sort of router that's handing out IP addresses automatically, which most homes do, and businesses as well, then you're going to pick up all those details like I have right here. We can give the connections a name, we can go through and set our manual IPv4 and IPv6 settings, and if you're in an enterprise environment that requires 802.1x, you might also have to authenticate your connection here. Like I mentioned, if you had a wireless card, you could browse the different SSIDs in your area and put in the password to connect. And lastly, what you can also do is you can set up a VPN. So if you need to connect a VPN, whether it be for home or personal use or for business use, you can go and set them up within here. And by default, OpenVPN and PPTP is supported, but you can also import settings from a file. You can configure a network proxy if you need to. So if your environment has a network proxy and you won't be able to get out to the internet unless you configure these settings, you can pop those in. And there's also a manner where you can go and modify the firewall. So by default, the firewall is denying all incoming and allowing all outgoing. You can navigate to rules and add in custom rules. Now this is a bit of an advanced section, so if you're a new user, I wouldn't worry too much around the firewall. It does do a pretty good job of explaining about it in this little guide right here, but all you really need to know is that you can turn it on and off. You can configure custom rules, you can report on what's being used, and there's also a log as well to show you what's being configured. So that's really it for the networking side of things in Zorin OS. A little bit of an overview. We're just going to leave everything on DHCP because I think most environments are probably going to be doing that. Thanks for sticking with me. See you in the next one. Let's deep dive into one of the most exciting features of Zorin OS, and that's the Zorin Appearance app. If you've ever wished your computer could look and feel exactly the way you want it, whether that's something sleek and modern or something that reminds you of Windows or macOS, you're going to love what the Zorin Appearance app has to offer. So the Zorin Appearance app is a built-in customization tool that comes with Zorin OS. Its purpose is to give you, the user, full control over the look and feel of your desktop. And this is available no matter the edition that you're using. So if you're using Core, Pro, or Education, you'll find this tool invaluable. Please note that the Lite edition does have a different environment and really does offer fewer options, but that's why it's the Lite environment. So you can find the Zorin Appearance app in your Applications menu. So by default, this is what the layout looks like. If we head on down to the Start menu here and click on Zorin Appearance, that will load up. So the first tab we have is the Layouts tab. This is one of the highlights of Zorin OS. On the Layouts tab, you'll find predefined desktop layouts that mimic the appearance of other operating systems. So let's go through the four we're presented with here. This one has got quite a Windows 11 feel, then we've got a Windows 10 feel, we've got a Mac OS type feel, and another version of macOS there. Now I'm typically more of a Windows user, so I'm going to go ahead and select this one for the rest of the course. Now you can get more desktop layouts by upgrading to Pro, but you have 4 available in the Core edition. Note that switching between layouts is instant and safe. It's not going to, destroy any data or anything like that, so you can feel free to use them. Next up, under the Theme tab, you can control the overall color scheme of your system. We have light and dark modes, so you can switch your entire desktop and app experience between light and dark themes with a single click. Alright, so there we go. If you want something a bit more easier on the eyes, you can switch into dark mode, and then you can set schedules as well. So let's say, for example, if we want to go from 8 o'clock till 5 o'clock with light, and then with 5 o'clock to 8 AM in dark mode, we can do that as well. We can also change the accent colors here. So this is things like on the menu, but I'm going to stick to blue because it's quite a nice color. You can set up some effects, so you can enable jelly mode, you can look up and configure desktop cubing and spatial window switcher. Under the desktop, you can change icon sizes, and you can also add different icons to the desktop here with these little tick boxes. So if we tick all of them, for example, and then we can say we want them tiny, or we want them large, or we can just turn them off altogether. I like them on, so let's go ahead and just turn on home and trash. Under the Placement tab, you can detail where the new windows are going to go. There's a few more settings around what the window title bars are going to look like and the focus. The Interface tab, you can configure there as well as fonts. So for example, if I wanted things in bold, I could set into black 10. I could even turn it up, maybe I need something a little bit larger to help me out. There you go. I'm just going to turn that down though to the default 10 just to keep things easy. So you can do it with interface text, monospace text, and document text. So really my advice to you is don't be afraid to experiment in here. Nothing in Zorin Appearance app is going to really break your system. It's all just about customization and you liking the way your layout looks. If you're using older hardware, you might want to turn off some of the more advanced features like animations, and in those cases I would say choosing a simpler layout can really boost the performance. For touchscreen users, you can use a touch layout in order to provide larger icons and spacing for better usability, and of course you can always revert back your settings if you change your mind later on. So the Zorin Appearance app is one of the most user-friendly customization tools you'll find on any Linux desktop. It's perfect for beginners, yet powerful enough for advanced users who want to fine-tune every pixel of their environment. By using this tool, you're going to be able to tailor your desktop experience much more to work your personal style. So whether you're a long-time Windows user, a macOS fan, or someone just discovering the power of Linux, I recommend you give this one a go. Now I'm going to show you how to get into the settings menu of Zorin OS for more customizability. If we head on down to the start menu and open it up, you'll see here there is a cogwheel with the word settings. Let's click on that. And then down the left hand panel is all of the settings that we can configure. So I'm not going to dive too deep into each of them because they're pretty self-explanatory, but we already covered the network, Bluetooth. So if you have any Bluetooth devices, think speakers, mouse, keyboard, anything like that, you can come and connect them within here. So you can turn on Bluetooth on the other device, and then match them together. There's different backgrounds, so you can go and pick one of the nice backgrounds that are available by default. I'm going to choose this one because I find it quite nice, so we'll leave that for the rest of it. You can also add your own as well. You can set up notifications, so apps that are allowed to notify you of different things going on. You can set up search, you can configure multitasking. There is settings for each of the applications. So if you go into the applications tab, that'll take you to kind of like a sub tab where you can go and customize different settings for each of the applications you have installed. Same thing with privacy. You can go in here and you can, for example, turn on location services, or you can set some settings around the rubbish bin, so automatically delete the rubbish bin content, let's say every 30 days, something like that. You can configure online accounts, so if you use Google, Microsoft Exchange, anything like that, you can configure them within here. You can turn on or turn off sharing, so remote desktop and media sharing. We can configure sounds, so if we, for example, plug in a microphone, we can select that. We can change our output device, so if we've got headphones connected, we can change the volume within here as well. Power, this is especially important for laptops, so if you're wanting your laptop to run longer on its battery, you might turn on power saving mode and you might blank the screen after, say, 1 minute. However, because I'm on a desktop, we're going to go on balanced, and I'm going to turn the screen blank off. If you was in a business environment, you might want to turn that on so that your screen automatically turns off after some inactivity, but the better recommendation is just lock your machine as you go away. For the screen display, we can change the resolution, we can change the orientation, we can change the reference and the scale. We can set up our mouse and touchpad, and there's some settings within there. Same with keyboard, so if we get a different keyboard or we want to put a different language in, we can go and add languages within here. We can also create some keyboard shortcuts as well. Printers is a really interesting one. I think a lot of people use printers both in home and business environments. So you can set up printers. You just click on the add printer button. It's going to search the network and try and find one. And you can just go and add it through there. There's also some printer settings that you can go and configure. So things like you can tune black and white, color, A4, A3, that sort of thing. Plugging in CDs, DVDs, USBs, you can configure what to do with them. You can set some color profiles. To be fair, I've not ever really played much around with this. I've never had the need. You can change your language and your region. You can configure some accessibility. So for example, if you're a bit hard of visuals, you can enable larger text. We can have screen readers, we can have visual alerts, everything really that's pretty typical of an accessibility within an operating system. We can go and configure additional users. So if there are going to be multiple people using this machine, we can go ahead and unlock. Now this needs to be done by the administrator of the system, and then we can add a user. So let's say, for example, my wife wanted to use this computer. I would just put in their full name, the username. You can either set it so that they can set their own password or you pick it. And the account type, administrator has administrative permissions on the machine. It can install software, it can change settings, whereas a typical standard account is very restricted. So keep that in mind. We can pick default applications. So if I had multiple browsers installed, I could pick the one that I want to be default. Same with mail, calendar, music, video, and photos. We can change the date and time. This is especially handy for places that use daylight savings. So if the time suddenly goes back an hour or goes forward an hour, you can come in here and configure it. And then finally, the About section here just gives you some details on the system itself, which can be handy for troubleshooting or if you're on the forums and someone's trying to help you out. So that's really it for the basic settings that you need to know. I will go ahead and sign this one off, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Welcome to the next step in our journey, and that's learning how to keep your system secure, stable, and up to date. One of the major strengths of Zorin OS is how easy and efficient it is to keep your system updated. In this lesson, we're going to walk through some simple steps on why it's important to update and how to actually do it. Well, let's answer the question, why do we need to install updates? Well, installing updates isn't just about getting new features. It's mostly about fixing security vulnerabilities, right? Every operating system in the world develops security vulnerabilities. People learn how to manipulate the systems to do malicious things to them. So what happens is the developers come along and fix those security vulnerabilities, but they need some way to get them onto your machine, and that happens through updates. There are also improvements made to performance and stability. We can update the drivers, which is the software that controls the hardware of our machines, and it also fixes bugs. Same again, every operating system has bugs. Zorin OS is not excluded from that. So when these updates come available, more often than not, they're going to contain fixes to bugs and fixes to things that might go a little bit awry in your system. Now, Zorin OS is based on Ubuntu, which means it benefits from a very active deployment community and a very active development one too, and they're constantly working to improve the systems. So let's take a look at the graphical way to update our system. If we go back down to the start menu here and we go under System Tools, there you're going to see there's an option called Software Updater. This is the easiest way to stay updated, and it's ideal for beginners. So you can see now it's running out, it's checking the internet for any updates, and we've got a few here available. So we've found some security updates and we've found updates for our browser as well. So we can go ahead and click Install now, and that's going to go through and perform that update. And you can click on the Details button to get a bit more information. Now, sometimes when the updates are installed, you may be asked to restart your system, especially if kernel or core updates were included. But it's as simple as just giving it a quick reboot and then continuing on with your day. So we'll let that run through, and then we'll continue on to the next part. All right, there we go. So the software on this computer is up to date. So we're going to click OK. Now, the other thing I want to show you is if we go under System Tools, there is also an Upgrade Zorin OS button. And if we click on that, this is the option that you can go to if you want to upgrade to the Pro or Education editions from Core. All right, so you could go buy the Zorin OS and then click Upgrade, and it will go through and automatically update your system. You can also get to these things by if you go to Settings and we scroll down to the About, you can see here you can also get to Software Updates this way. And if you click on that, then it's go through and check for updates again, and you can see that none are available. You can also click on the settings here and you can set automatic software updates. All right, so if you go into the Zorin software, you can pick where to download it from. Other software, you're going to pick the sources, but under the updates here, you can say, okay, well, I want to automatically check for updates every 2 days. It's going to prompt me for my password. When there are security updates, download and install automatically. When there are other updates, you can say display immediately, display weekly, and so forth. And I wouldn't worry too much about these other 2 tabs. They're for more advanced users. But yeah, I just wanted to really show you that you can do automatic updates, and that might be something to kind of take the stress out of your mind. By enabling those, this ensures your system stays updating without bothering you every day. And in my experience, this isn't like the whole Windows updates thing. You're not going to be waiting ages and ages and ages to get back into your system. The updates typically work pretty quickly. Now, you don't need to restart your computer after every update, only when prompted. So for most app and system updates, a restart's not required. Keeping your Zorin OS system updated is simple, safe, and the smartest thing that you can do. Whether you prefer clicking your way through the software updater or setting up the automatic updates, it's entirely up to you. Thank you very much for sticking with me in this lesson. I'll see you in the next one.